Hey, what's up, guys? We are back, Zero Hour. Tim Lloyd, joined by my man Jeff Hobbs, and it's always my favorite show, as I say it every time. We got my guy Cody Saftik joining us. It is time to preview the professional card for the Nashville Underground show. It goes down this Friday from Nashville, Tennessee. Training Camp Nashville is the spot. You can get your tickets at fightertix.com. You can get the pay-per-view at Spectation Sports. And today we're going to run through the pro card here with Cody. We've got odds that hopefully will be posted on sportsbooks. I'm hoping by tomorrow. I know that Spectation's got some meetings going on tomorrow to get that finalized, but we've got the odds for you today, and we're going to dive into it. Cody, my man, you're going to be coming in to Nashville again. It's been about a year, I guess, since the last time we got to see you. That it was at the AMP show, which was also in Nashville. And yeah, it's been real close to about a year ago. Excited to have you down south again, my man.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. So came down to Nashville about 1 year ago for that last show, or for the last, your big amp show.
Yeah.
Tons of pros, good odds on it. Have a blast. So then I say, you know what? I'm taking my wife here on our honeymoon. End up going back to Nashville like six months later. Took the wife for a honeymoon. And then this time around, funny enough, I fly in on the Thursday. It's my birthday. So,
Oh,
dude, Nashville's like a second home to me now. And I
nice.
love when there's odds on the cards because, dude, I would come and break down every card with you guys, but you only invite me when there's betting odds. So there's betting odds this time, and I'm pumped up to come in here and break it down with you.
Jeff, of course, we're coming to your neck of the woods. You're our Middle Tennessee guys, so it's been a busy one for you as we come off the heels of Chattanooga. And, next week we're at Knoxville, my neck of the woods. 3 shows, 3 weeks. This is the one landing right in the middle, but the one that has probably, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, the biggest fights.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the record, though, we just found out over the last 2 days that there's going to be odds. Cody was invited before we knew that there might be
That's
odds. Right?
true. That's true.
This
Yeah,
it
I'm
was
saying
not.
I'm saying to break down the cards because you guys always have my man Tim with the excellent matchmaking, but this one especially, like I think I'm excited to jump into it because there's a lot of like close fights that could go either way, and that's what makes for good entertainment.
Well, I will say when it comes to the show, though, you're going to get a big contrast and difference between your last visit with Amped in the big venue with all the bells and whistles. Cody, this is the underground by design. This gets back dirty, gritty, old school feel. Back in it reminds you of a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. We're going to meet in a parking garage and everyone's standing around and we're going to throw down and see who the hell wins and who doesn't.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the thing I want to bring up as well. We talk about hometown advantage a lot, and in some of the instances, like Didrik Sanders, he's fighting in his own backyard. He's fighting right in his own gym, and I think that brings back, just like you said, old school is the first thing I thought as well. When you would go to somebody's gym and be like, "I will fight you." Right in your own gym, the old school Gracie, uh, clash against the other teams. Like, I think it's super exciting. So I missed the first one, but I'm very excited to be here for the
And
second.
even better because it's not even in the gym. You're in the gym, you walk through a fire emergency door that raises up, and it is just an empty warehouse feel. Everything's brick, low ceilings, you know, dirt on the floors, and it's a savage feel to it. And that's the way we wanted it. That's the way we like it. And oddly enough, we did the first one there, decided this was a great success. Let's go do this again in the bigger venue. Every single fighter that fought on the first one that went to the second one or fought on the second one said, let's go back to the garage. This doesn't feel like the underground. Why did you try to shine it up and make it look pretty? We loved what it was, so we took it back, and we'll stay there for the underground shows. That being said, let's roll right into it. Your first pro bout of the evening. It's going to see Andrew Sturdivant with a record of 1-0 from Agogi Combatives taking on Jacob Olave from Kazan MMA. This one is in the 145-pound division, a sweet featherweight scrap between two young kids. Cody, what do you think?
Yeah, so this is a great way to kick it off because you've got a pretty much an even fight. Both guys are young in their careers. Both guys got a lot of amateur success, and now they're trying to continue that into the pro ranks. When you look at Sturtevant, he's always rotated wins and losses throughout the majority of his amateur career. All of his losses, Austin Coleman, who we'll talk about later, Silas Reynolds, Alexei Pergante, big shout out to him, Garrett Sharp, all solid guys. He doesn't go out there and lose to bad amateurs. He generally fights whatever the best level of competition is available and ends up finishing his last two amateur fights on a winning note. So it's his first winning streak, carries that into his pro debut against Titus Moore. And boy, oh boy, man, that's a tough pro debut. Titus Moore gave him everything he could handle. Takes his back in the first round, had a lot of success with the takedowns. Generally, the bigger, stronger guy was just kind of a little more physical. Second round, a lot more of the same. But Sturdivant, same thing that he showed in his amateur career. He's got a good gas tank. So you can toss him around a little bit early, but he's quirky. He rolls with it. His striking style, a little unorthodox, hands are low, baits his opponents in a lot. But again, he can continue a pace. So I thought as Moore started to tire, Sturdivant started to come on. And then all of a sudden, Sturdivant's landing the takedowns, and he's passing guard, and he's getting advantage positions, pounding him with elbows, ends up getting a cut stoppage in the third. Did he need to finish that fight in the third? Maybe. It could have been 1-1, don't get me wrong, but it was a close fight that the kid pulled away in the third. And I think as far as a pro debut, you would just learn a ton. So I was very excited to see him against Josh Degalito, I believe, on a couple shows later, but Sturdivant ends up pulling out. So hopefully he's not too banged up. Hopefully he's not too injured, but he's still young, trains out of a solid camp in Agogi Combatives, and I think that he'll come out here and have a lot of strength, right? When you look at his opponent, Jacob Olav, like a lot about him, right? Again, here's another guy who's young, again, has some decent amateur pedigree, moves well, likes to strike a little bit, but it seems that in his own fights, he's the one getting overpowered. Go back 2 fights ago against this James Pfeiffer. James Pfeiffer is a beast. James Pfeiffer is big for the weight class, and Jay Pfeiffer has his way with him. Backs him up when he needs to, takes him down when he needs to, and especially with those takedowns, there's a lot of control there. Sturdivant got outpowered by Titus Moore's last time out, but I think in this particular matchup, they'll have a slight strength advantage and just continues to hopefully wear on him, hopefully just chip away at Jacob Olav. This is a fight that probably hits that over 2.5. It's probably something that's going to go a little bit later, but I think that Sturdivant ends up getting the takedowns, spending some top control, and then eventually just gets himself what is a close competitive decision to move to 2-0 as a pro. So the pick for me would be Andrew Sturdivant, but I'm expecting a fun fight either way.
And if I could interject there real quick, I don't think we actually said the odds on this one. It is pretty much a pick 'em. It is a slight lean towards Andrew Sturdivant, -130 to come back on Jacob Olav being a +110. And as Cody mentioned, the total at 2.5. The over is slightly favored, -140, over 2.5, under 2.5. +120. I do like that over look myself. Both of these guys fairly durable, hard to put away. And as far as the side goes, man, that's tough to call. I think Sturdivant has maybe could have the argument for the better strength of competition up until this point. I think that this will be a pretty nice little. I'm going to say a little bit of it. Pfeiffer's very good. I won't say that, but one of the better opponents that Olav has come across overall in his career. So I'm excited for this one. I think we're going to get a good pace here out of both of these guys. Both fairly well rounded too. I think that there's not really anything that either guy just can't at least do somewhat pretty well. So good way to start this one off. Both guys hungry, young, looking to make a mark.
Yes, sir. Agree with both of you guys on that one. Just with their ages and how young these two guys are, I expect them both to go balls to the wall and give the Nashville crowd a show. All right, guys, we're going to move into our next bout. This is a gentleman that Cody, you've already mentioned once here. And in this one, it's going to be in the lightweight division, someone who is no stranger to the underground. This is going to be Dedrick Sanders from Nashville MMA with a record of 6 wins and 3 losses, taking on Kellen Van Camp from Indie Boxing and Grappling with a 5-3 record. This one is one that I have got the little asterisk by. If you were at the last Underground and watched Mike Roberts and Dedrick Sanders go at it, it was for me, a different Dedrick Sanders than what we've seen. A very a brutal Dedrick Sanders, a very calculated, almost with a mean streak, which is hard to think of Dedrick Sanders with a mean streak. He's such a quiet guy, but I think this one right here, Kellen Van Camp for me is a tough kid, And I think this one is going to be that fan-friendly ooh and ah fight. Cody, how do you see this one?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I absolutely love this fight. Tim and I spoke a few weeks back, and Dedrick Sanders wanted to compete on the card, and it was like, well, what are some fun fights for him that would be at his level, but a challenging fight, but at the same time, a good opportunity for him to jump forward, especially with the UFC being in town. Dedrick Sanders is 100% knocking on the door for something like the Contender Series. What would be a fan-friendly good fight for him? And then right away, Kellen Van Camp is something that just jumps away at you because he's a fun fighter. This is a good scrap. When you said that thing about Dedrick Sanders, I agree with you. There was a difference with him with the Mike Roberts fight. But I will say, to me, it goes one fight back. And it was that last Aries Amp show where he fought Logan Neal. There's a ton of heat between Nashville MMA and Agogi. There was a lot of emotion going into that fight. And Dedrick came out and he finished. He finished in style in the first round, looked solid. I think that, again, now he's got that confidence knowing that he's on a 3-fight winning streak. He's getting better. His chances right there. That confidence added to those skills that he's acquired has gone a long way. Keep in mind, and I hate saying this, but I always kind of shit on these guys from Alaska FC. They never really make it all that far, but the guys that leave Alaska and go to a good camp make improvements. Jared Cannonier is from Alaska. And Lauren Murphy is from Alaska. There's a solid Alaskan fighters. Even this Euros Medic, only fight I got wrong on last week's UFC card, Alaskan. But you got to get to one of these better camps. Dedrick Sanders did that. He was young in his career. He was green in his career when he first came over. His loss is Zach Zane. Zach Zane's a Bellator veteran. He's a PFL veteran. He's the Eagle FC veteran. Jonathan Pierce, JSP, fights in the UFC. He's like a gatekeeper top 15 guy breaking on his way in. Terrence McKinney. I mean, the guy's an absolute explosive animal. Either finishes you quick or, fades off. But another UFC guy. So Dedrick Sanders did himself no favors by taking that level of competition. But it's done him some good because now he knows he's been in there with those kind of guys before. He's at a Nashville MMA, Charlie Alexander, Dustin Ortiz, solid guys, Pat Crump, guys that are going to be able to push him, get him to that next level. And I think that confidence is finally getting there. What you saw in that Mike Roberts fight was perfect for a Nashville Underground because he busted him up. There was blood everywhere. That was a brutal beating. But to me, that was Dedrick Sanders is solid as a 55er, a guy that's very physically strong. His wrestling, whereas the technique isn't quite as high up as a Pat Crumpton or a Charlie Alexander. Like it's not a collegiate wrestling, but he's so physically strong that he can get away with some of those flaws and just overpower his guys. But his ability to just kind of back up opponents, strike with them. He was throwing in combinations against Mike Roberts, good ground and pound. Solid 3-round cardio. I think that Sanders goes out there and puts on an impressive performance, then he gets a call. Vice versa to that, Keelan Van Camp, a little more of a wild card. So I'm actually a big fan of this guy. If you want to talk about, Dedrick Sanders will just take him down. Well, maybe not. Like Keelan Van Camp wrestled in high school, was a decent wrestler, finished second in the state, and then end up wrestling Division III in college. Guy knows how to wrestle. Guy knows how to scrap. And the biggest thing about him is when you see him get taken down in fights, he's always getting back up. I've seen him get knocked out. I've seen him, get put in bad spots. I've seen him rocked. I've seen him taken down. I've never seen him tire out. He's got a very good gas tank. And so if Sanders comes out with a wrestling heavy game plan, he risks kind of tiring himself out a little bit. Dedrick carries a lot of muscle. And in a 15-minute fight in front of a hot Nashville crowd in the middle of the summer, he's going to have to bring his lunchbox with him because this could be a fight that drags in deeper. Low key, when Sanders loses, it's usually by quick finish. And when Keelan loses, it's usually by quick finish. But the low key, the over 1.5 is plus money on this fight. I like that because I think this is going to be a scrap. I think that Dedrick's going to back him up. He is the stronger guy. Keelan's a little bit faster. He's going to play to the outside. Tapology says he's 5'8" or something. He's not. He's 5'11", and he's every bit of 5'11". His brother's 6'2", and they look the same size when you look at them in pictures. I think that he'll play that outside game, throwing combinations, minding P's and Q's. He's been knocked out before, yeah, but it's always when he opens up. Like Nate Maness, another UFC veteran, the last guy to beat Kellen Van Camp. He's exchanging with them. He's opening up. He's landing a ton of good shots on Maness. Unfortunately, he gets caught in those exchanges. He just minds his P's and Q's, plays to the outside, tries to swarm Dedrick with some volume, gets taken down, makes him work, gets way back up. This is going to be a fun, gritty scrap all the way through. So I absolutely love this fight. My best bet would be that over 1.5, being that both guys are tough and both guys want it. And I think that Van Camp at 5-3, a win over Sanders moves him to 6-3. He hasn't fought in about 18, 20 months, I think. But he's still young, and a big win over Sanders puts him where he wants to be. Vice versa for Sanders, a win over Van Camp, whose brother was in the UFC. Van Camp himself has got a win over Pat Crumpton. There's a good little storyline there with Nashville MMA. All good shit, man. All good shit. So both guys stand to benefit really well. And the biggest beneficiary is the fans, man, because
Yeah.
I think this will be a fun one. So the last thing I got to say, the last little wild card, which does make Van Camp 100% an underdog, is like 95% of his career has been at 145 pounds. But again, at 5'11", 145, he never really filled that frame. And maybe that's why he was a little bit shaky. His last fight was at 155, first of his career. Looked like he filled out, and he gets a quick second round knockout. Looked pretty solid. Now he takes an additional 18 months away. So coming back at 55, he's only like 26 or 27 years old. You could see a very good in shape Van Camp. He's had a couple fights fall through. I don't think he's just rolling off the couch for this one. Live underdog. But I got to make a pick. And unfortunately, I think Sanders is strong. He's experienced, and he's been fighting recently. And those recent results will have him fight for this one.
So I gotta agree with Cody there. That over 1.5 at plus 130 is looking mighty fine. I've got to say, like you mentioned, there have been quick finishes on both sides of that fight, but I do think this is going to be more of your grueling, gritty, a war of attrition, if you will. And I also agree with both you guys. I think this is a sleeper fight of the night. I think the fans are going to get what they paid for with this one. Both guys, I believe, realize what a win can do for them on this weekend in particular. And so, I think both guys, again, you look at both guys, they've only lost really to really, really good guys. And so I think both of those guys would like to fit the bill, if you will, as a really good guy that beat the other, if you will. So, excited for that one. Also, the odds on that one, I guess we should say, for the the side there, Sanders is the favorite at minus 180 with Van Camp coming back at plus 155.
All right, gentlemen, we are going to move on to the middleweight division. Somebody that is no stranger to us at all. Torres, the Punisher Finney from Agogi Combatives with a record of 5 wins and no losses. Will take on California's LJ Porte. 7-7 record out of a place called the Compound in California. The Punisher is back, and his competition flying in from California this week. Another gentleman that we've talked about who is trying to get to that next level. I think is understanding I cannot have long layoffs in between fights anymore. I've got to stay busy, and wanted to get back in there. And newcomer, though, to the Underground, as many times as he's fought for us, has never made that trip to the Underground. So I think he's somebody that with his fan base will fit right into the Underground scene. I know he just sent me a message right now and said, out of tickets, they're all gone. So they're coming deep from East Tennessee into the what will be a hot Underground, not just in the action, but in the temperature probably too back there. But Cody, man, what do you think? Torres, Finney, LJ. I'm gonna with the I don't know what you call it, the little slash above the E. I'm gonna fancy it up. Porte. What do you think about it?
Hit us with the odds on this, Jeff,
Okay,
too, so we've got some context.
I thought you were my odds guy. I thought that was your shtick today.
If we were lead off with it, if you want to lead off with me saying it, I will.
No, that's okay. I got you. Torres Finney minus 1,500, a big minus 1,500. LJ Porte at plus 1,000. You're over 1.5 at plus 400, and under 1.5 sitting at minus 500.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, credit to Tim for finding someone to fight Torrance Finney, because I think that's a big problem, is that not a whole lot of guys are wanting to go out there and step in against a Torrance Finney. And why not fight this undefeated beast of a man in the UFC, where I can get paid, boku bucks and be on national television, maybe get some type of bonus. To take that fight right now would be real tough. So EL Porte comes in with a 7-7 record, and I don't think this minus 1,500 is indicative of we just set up a squash match. It's that Torrance Finney looks like he's the real deal, and most guys are looking to protect themselves. But Porte isn't, and I'll give himself that. He's willing to test himself. All the tape study that I've gone out and done on this guy, you watch a lot of interviews, I like him, man. And that's tough because I love Torrance Finney. We all went for a barbecue together out in Tennessee. Great guy. salt of the earth type guy, very, very hardworking. And I'm very, very confident that he's going to make the UFC in the very near future. But Porti is that guy that's willing to fight anybody, anywhere. His mentality is he doesn't care who the opponent is that he wants to test himself as a martial artist. And that's a good mentality to have because this is going to be one hell of a test. I look at Torrence Finney and I just like everything about him. The style to win MMA is these short, compact, power wrestlers, good cardio, can get you down, wrestle you away. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not the most exciting style. So matchmakers and people of higher organizations, they'll want to see those finishes. They'll want to see those highlight reel submissions or those big slam takedowns. And, winning is one thing, but winning's not necessarily the most exciting thing. So I think for Torrence Finney, it's very crucial that he fights somebody and puts on a spectacular performance. If you look at his last 2 fights, the Ivan Batinich fight in Icon FC is domination. It's the kind of fight that I like. Torrence Finney's able to take him down, outmuscle him, get all the positions, take no damage, which is essentially the key to a fist fight, is hit the other guy and don't get hit in return, right? So he does all that perfect, but it's a late 3rd round stoppage in a fight that some people were a little bit critical of. And then in his last fight against Caleb Crump, much of the same, a lot of domination, not a whole lot of damage incurred by Torrence Finney, but that's his first fight as a pro that goes to decision. So this fight with El Porti is not simply win the fight and move to 6-0. He needs to go out there and do something spectacular. And I don't think that's lost on him. I don't think that's lost on his training partners or his management team. And so I expect Torrence Finney to come out like a man on fire and probably fish for that 1st round finish. Now, Porti likes to scrap. He's a scrapper, okay? He's got that scrapper mentality. If Torrence want to work on his boxing, this could be a good fight to do that. But why? Why would you do that? Why would you risk your 5-0 record? Why would you give this guy a puncher's chance when you can just bulldoze him to the ground and smash, smash, smash? That's fully what I expect to happen in this spot. If you just look 2 fights back for El Porti, he fights Chris Padilla for UNF. That's at a catch weight of 165 pounds, okay? And Porti comes out and he scraps early, but ultimately Chris Padilla, a man who was under the welterweight limit, takes him down with a rudimentary double leg takedown, easily passes guard, and once he's on top of him, the damage just accrues rapidly. Torrens will do the exact same thing. He's a legitimate middleweight, a big, strong guy. Yeah, only 5'7", but imagine trying to get that boulder of a man off of you. Not going to happen. Good ground and pound. Is it enough to take out a Caleb Crump? No, he needs to work on it. Is it enough to smash through an El Porti? Yeah, for sure. So when you look at the under being 1.5, we're taking that under all day long, right? But it's still not a great price tag. Like Torrence Finney's minus 1,500. There's no money you can make on that. The under 1.5 is like minus 400 or 500, right? There's again not really a whole lot you can make there, but that would probably be the only way to attack it. I think knockout personally, not that that's available as a prop, but I would think that he just ground and pounds him out. Porti, as tough as he is, he'll take that beating. The fans will be excited. All those people that bought a ticket will be excited, and more importantly, Torrence Finney gets a nice finish, and I think that's what the UFC and their matchmakers are looking for. He's on the short list if someone pulls out in Nashville. I could see Sanders or him or Nakudo. I could see somebody getting the call up on short notice because they're in Nashville and they're top-level talent already. Finney's right there. Should be on the Contender Series. Right there. There's a reason they haven't offered him it yet. And I think that's them expressing, go get a nice finish. Go get a couple nice finishes, couple fights, stay active, and the invitation will come. So I really like Torrence Finney as a man. Great guy. But as a prospect, solid prospect. And I'll leave you with this. If this was a basketball game, Torrence Finney is a first-round NBA draft pick, right? There's 30 picks in the first round. He's somebody's first-round draft pick, solid prospect, undefeated as an amateur, undefeated as a pro, wrestling background, trains at a solid gym, cross-trains at places like Fusion Excel over in Orlando. All good things for Torrence Finney. He's going somewhere. El Porti, he's not even playing D3 college ball at this point. He's playing pick up at the park. But this is why MMA, greatest sport in the world, not basketball. That basketball guy has zero chance of beating the NBA first-round draft pick. But in a fist fight, puncher's chance. Banana peel pricing, something could happen. So it's a fist fight. It's not foregone that one man's going to win, one man's going to lose. It's going to be a fight still. Logic and the money line and all that dictates that Torrence Finney, very bright future, probably going to roll on through on this one.
Yeah, I don't really have much that I can add that Cody hasn't said already. He pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's hard to it's hard to see much of a path to profitability in this fight unless maybe you use the under as some sort of parlay piece or something like that. That would be about the only thing that I could see. But again, as Cody said, this is why they fight. I've seen crazier things happen, than this an upset of this magnitude. So it would be, you still don't want to go out there and lay crazy minus 1,500 money on any fight, honestly, in my opinion, just because from what I've learned, whatever can go wrong usually will go wrong.
Yeah,
So yeah,
Anderson
buyer
Silva, he'll
beware.
break his leg. There's always some
Disqualifications, yeah, that's one thing too. Is like
disqualifications,
when you've
punches in
got
the back of the head.
right, you've got a guy that has such vicious ground and pound and wild aggression as a Torres Finney on top, who's looking for that finish, and then something lands astray, and now somebody can't continue, and then things get all kinds of wonky. So I'm not much on passing on betting, but this is one I probably have to pass on.
Yeah, and Tim doesn't pass on betting. And shame on you, Cody, for saying that MMA was better than basketball, because Tim loves betting on basketball. And definitely shame on you for saying that one of these guys can't get picked or could get picked up on it. No, we don't want any short notice additions to the UFC card. We only have pro fights here. We can't lose one, my man.
Yeah.
But definitely a possibility. You're 100% correct in there, and I think that's one of the appeals that a lot of these fighters, when we approach them, had in the back of their mind. They immediately went to that UFC card, seeing how many fights were in their weight class.
Yeah,
because like you said, anything can happen, and we've seen a lot of fight week things happen, weigh-in day things happen, and
licensing issues at the
absolutely.
last minute.
And
Yeah,
the beautiful thing about just running the night before, licensing's done, the cutoff has been met, so a lot of things could go someone's way should something happen. But we are going to press on, and this next bout, it's a shame on a card like this that you have to call something a main event or co-main event when you've got these last two fights on the card. We're looking at them as a main event one, main event two, but at the end of the day, we're in Nashville, Tennessee, and we got Nashville fighters on the card who put some butts in seats, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to save the hometown kid for last. But our next fight is one that has a lot of people interested. It turned a card that people were excited about to a card that people have real eyes on, and wanting to look at two gentlemen and see what happens, what they do, how they win. And it's a catchweight fight, but only a catchweight fight because of how late it was at in the game. Both these gentlemen, no problem in their careers making 125, but on Friday night, this will be a catchweight of 130 pounds. You are going to see Cleveland McLean from Fusion Excel, 27 professional fights, record of 17 wins, 10 losses. This guy has been around and he has done it all, taking on a gentleman a little shorter in the career, but undefeated at 5-0, representing that Sarah Longo / Weidman. I think they call themselves Law MMA, I believe now, up there, but uber prospect in the world of mixed martial arts, a gentleman that we've seen 5 times, and every show we've got Bellator debut, 4 straight CFFC bouts, a title win, a title defense, and this is a gentleman that after his last title defense in in another promotion, had a surgery, and then decided he wanted to maybe shop around a pro wrestling career, and looked into that, and out of nowhere, management popped up and said, "Hey, Fumi Nakata wants to fight, and we noticed you're in Nashville on UFC weekend. What do you think?" It didn't take long for us to tell him what we thought, Cody, and man, how exciting! Fumi Nakata minus 400 versus Cleveland McLean plus 300. What a fight!
Yeah, absolutely. Good, very good fight. Very good fight. And especially when you got two guys that are knocking on the door again to the larger promotions, calling them to the UFC, to the Bellator, to the One Championship. They're right there, right? And so to be able to throw a fight like that on like 3 weeks notice on both sides, very cool. Very cool. The Fumi Nakata side, he looks like the uber prospect. And again, if this was on a UFC card, it's one of those spots that I personally might get myself in trouble into because you buy right into the hype. How could you not? This kid looks the part. He's very, very quick. He's from a very solid gym, undefeated as an amateur, undefeated as a professional. As you mentioned, Jeff, his last 4 fights all for CFFC, but they're all title fights. Like, they're all high magnitude fights, and he was just 2-0 when he won the title originally. 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. This guy looks like the limit for him potentially. And then the injuries start to compound. And so, yeah, a big surgery, retires from the sport, which is not super optimistic as a bettor who's thinking about laying minus 400 on him, is that he's only 27, but he retired from the sport and he starts shopping around to try to get a wrestling contract. Been a wrestling fan his entire life since he was a little kid. Turned on to MMA when he was about 12 years old, but again, it was through Ken Shamrock and that tie to professional wrestling. It's always something he wanted to do. And then low key, as he wins the CFFC title, CM Punk is the play-by-play guy. CM Punk's got shares in AEW wrestling. So I think he really did make a push. Problem is that you're not Rey Mysterio Jr., and even Rey Mysterio Jr. probably got there because Rey Mysterio Sr., somebody laid a foundation for the guy. So as a flyweight, it would just be very, very difficult to crack it into the WWE or a professional wrestling organization. It's not the 80s anymore. You don't got to be super jacked up, giant of a man. But you still got to be pretty big, let's be honest. So, yeah, that doesn't really fan out, and now I think maybe he's feeling better. Maybe he's a little bit healed up, and then you jump back into MMA opportunity. It's all great, but they're all red flags. If you had told me this kid was just, I don't know, pursuing something else and not injured and not rethinking a different career choice and had been continuously working on his Brazilian jiu-jitsu, let's say he's a brown belt now and he's made steady improvements, he's going to come back as a much better version of himself. Because the last time you saw him almost 2 years ago, again, I think about 20 months, the last time you saw him, he's young. He's going to come back as a much more improved, refined version, right? But maybe wrong, because if he's not even training, if he's doing pro wrestling training, if he's letting his body heal, then how many improvements has he realistically made other than he's matured? So a little bit concerning. Now, in terms of his game, I like it, man. Again, he's lightning fast from the outside. His striking, not bad. Like, offensively, he will throw in combinations, but he doesn't seem to overly commit to any exchange. He prefers to just change levels, get that single leg, get low on you, get you to the ground. And then defensively, again, he's young in his career, but he hasn't been hit a whole lot. And therefore, he's not comfortable getting hit a whole lot. So all tough stuff. Now, this uber prospect who's been off all this time, who, maybe is uncomfortable getting hit, is now taking on a 27-fight veteran, 34-year-old Cleveland McLean, who's 100% a live underdog. He has a striking advantage. Guy's got tight boxing, nasty left high kick that just springs out of nowhere. He's got a solid highlight reel of finishes. But again, it's deceiving that Cleveland McLean has a 17-10 record. Yeah, but he was 7-7 through his first 14 fights. And around the age of 28, with the same age as Fumi Nakuda is right now, around the age of 28, he starts to hit his stride. And from there, he's 10-3. Those 3 losses, all good guys. Victor Diaz is the current Titan FC flyweight champ. That was a split decision loss to him. And Victor Diaz is going to be on the Contender Series, I think, next week. Joshua Van just made his UFC debut. Beat Zalga Zumagulov as a big underdog. Looks spectacular. So he's fighting solid competition. He's looking good for the most part doing it. And he's live. He's fought 5 rounds in his career before. Cardio seems to be good. He missed weight for his last fight at 128 pounds, but don't got to worry about that here because it's 130 pounds. So that probably plays into his hand as well. Won't have a terrible weight cut, has a striking advantage. The biggest thing is when you look at tape on him in pretty much every fight, the Jacob Silva fight, the Carlos Lozoya fight, the Joshua Van fight, the Victor Diaz fight, he gets taken down in every fight. And he's got a tendency to give up his back when he's trying to get back up. So, Fumi Nakuda, trained by Aljamain Sterling. Word on the street, Aljamain might even be in his corner. But Aljamain is probably best in the world at causing you to make that one mistake into giving up a back take. And then as soon as he takes your back, you just don't get him off of you. Fumi Nakuda, in a lot of his fights, ends up on the back. Cleveland McLean's got a tendency to give up his back. To me, as a bettor, that's how I see this one hitting, is that Fumi Nakuda, probably by decision. That would be the prop I look at, the over 2.5, and I think he just controls the position for 2 out of the 3 rounds, survives if he needs to. But if Cleveland McLean can force the scrambles, return to his feet, and stuff some of those takedowns, yeah, he's going to be able to box him up, sprawl and brawl, cause this kid to rethink his MMA career for the second time, and then spring a massive underdog upset. So if you're looking for a live underdog, you could do a lot worse than a 27-fight veteran who's still fighting some of his best fights.
I would say, again, Cody nails it. I don't have a whole lot to add. I would probably look at this as a fight where we will likely get if we're going to get a finish out of Fumi, it would probably be by submission and plus 180. That looks kind of juicy to me, actually. But playing it safe with the decision at plus 100, maybe you hit them both. Maybe you hit a little bit of maybe like figure out your unit size to where you sprinkle a little bit on both, and if the submission hits, you come out a little bit better ahead. This matchup though, Cody and I and Jeff as well. I mean, we were working to find someone that would take this bout for what seemed to be an eternity, but in reality it was probably a good 3 weeks, 4 weeks, it seems like. And Cody has a plethora of contacts up north. Jeff and I scoured the country, and it was honestly eye-opening to see. I'll go out there and say, like, there's a very fair purse being offered, to these guys for a regional level purse. You're not going to see, much better purses on the regional level than what was being offered here. And it was tough to get anybody to step to Nakuda here. You don't have to look very far in your Google searches to see that there is a lot of hype around him, that there is a lot of people that are very high on him. And we really struggled to get anyone to bite on that one. So props to Cleveland McLean, 27 fight vet. He saw this as an opportunity to knock off a prospect that has a lot of eyes on him, and in turn take a lot of his shine. At 17-10. He's a guy that needs some signature wins if he's going to punch a ticket to the next level organization. He's kind of got to jump now and start knocking off some of these prospects that other eyes are on, and shift that attention back to himself. So I do think we are going to get a very game Cleveland McLean that's going to come in here looking to take advantage of the opportunity. We'll see if he can do it or not. The time off, in my opinion, for Fumi does certainly level the playing field tremendously. There's so many questions as to what he'll look like coming back, after being on the shelf. But listening to the podcast with Aljamain, and he's very high on him. He's very, very, pushing him very hard as a next level prospect. So I'm excited to have him in Nashville, man. I'm excited to get to see him live and in person. And who knows? I mean, the winner of this fight, we may see in the UFC sooner than later.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk pro wrestling with them, to be honest with you. And again, like you were saying, Tim, trying to put this fight together, it reminded me of, when you lose your car keys and you're flipping up couch cushions, and I mean, you're looking everywhere, you're digging in the junk drawer.
Yeah.
You've looked everywhere, and then they're in your hand. We scoured everything, and then all of a sudden, Cleveland McLean is just right there. And the one thing I got to say, it wasn't a talk to Cleveland McLean into a fight. He took it because he's like, no, this isn't just because I can win this fight. It was a no-brainer, it seemed to him and his management company. Like, hell yeah. So where some of that other negotiations were going on, you almost felt like you were trying to talk someone into doing it.
Taking an L or something.
Yeah,
right? They're like, oh, no, I can't beat this guy.
from my side, that's exactly how it was. But I will tell you something about Cleveland McLean, which is badass on him. But when I would try to approach people and be like, would you want to take Fumi Nakuda? Again, you are trying to sell it to them. So you're trying to downplay what they're going up against. It's like, dude, this guy hasn't fought in almost 2 years, man. Did massive surgery, okay? Retires, doesn't even want to fight anymore. Figures why not? One more kick at the can. Still, if I see, got it. Jumping back in. He's willing to fight at 35. He had put his name in the hat at 25 or 35. So offered it to 35ers. Like, this guy's undersized, been off 2 years. And then it would come down to the same thing. They'd be like, oh, yeah? And where's he trained? It was like Sarah Longo. It's like, oh, no. Because it's like,
he just kept getting better.
He trains with Murad Dvalishvili. He trains with Matt Frivola. His coaches are Ray Longo and Matt Serra. You think this guy's not gotten any better? Of course he has. And he trains with the absolute best guys. And so from the guys that I approached, it was like a thanks but no thanks. But for Cleveland McLean, he's at a Fusion XL in Orlando. He's trained with Jacare Souza. He's trained with Rodolfo Vieira. Trains with Phil Rowe. He trains with Mike Davis. He's trained with a pile of top-level guys. And so that confidence of knowing I have 4 times more pro experience than this man. I train with badass black belts. He has the confidence that and that self-belief makes him a dangerous man. Some guys come in for the paycheck. Some guys come in because they just like to fight. Some guys come in because they have that determination, that they grit, that they believe they can win, and Cleveland has that. So again, every week, week in, week out, just like any sport, you're going to see these big underdogs hit. When you look at a Torrance Finney, is the chances of him losing there? Yeah, no, I don't see it. But a minus 400 Fumi Nakuda, there's enough that could go wrong for him that makes Cleveland McLean very dangerous. So again, I know it probably just sounds like I'm, keep drumming up the excellent matchmaking, but I'm not just making it up. I'm not being insincere. I think that this is a really good card because you have all these interesting storylines and possibilities.
Yeah. 100%, guys, and that brings us to our last pro fight of the evening. It is time for the local kid, the hometown guy. We have got out of Nashville MMA, Nashville's own Chris Ocon. Typically a flyweight, but this will be a bantamweight bout. You've seen Chris Ocon, Dana White Contender Series, Combate at 125 pounds. He's going to be stepping in there in the bantamweight division to take on Austin Coleman. So Chris Ocon, 6-3 record. Austin Coleman from Next Element Academy with a 3-1 record. What do we got here? We've got Chris Ocon, again, nice odds here. Minus 160 for Chris Ocon. Austin Coleman at plus 140. You've got the over 2.5 rounds at minus 200, under 2.5 at plus 180.
Yeah, if you're throwing it to me, I like Chris Ocon, to be honest with you. There's just a vast experience difference here. You can look at the fact that he's in his hometown. You can look at the fact that he's going to be in his own gym. You can look at the fact that he's got all those advantages. But experience, to me, is the biggest thing. 5-0 as an amateur. And you look at those amateur wins. He's got to win over Edward Massey as an amateur. He's got to win over Joshua Weems, who ended up going to the UFC as an amateur. Turns pro and beats Weems a second time. So he's been fighting some pretty stiff competition right from the get-go. Now, I will admit, right, a win over Reginald Adams, badass, solid win. That gets him on the Contender Series. He runs into Hunter Azer. Hunter Azer is a bantamweight. Chris Ocon is a flyweight. But when Dana calls and the UFC says you want to fight in Las Vegas in front of him, you're going to take it. But that was a huge difference maker in that fight. Ocon's slick. He's a good striker, likes to play to the outside, likes to move his feet, kind of play laterally a little bit. But physically at 135, it's just not quite there. And Hunter Azer, a former state champion wrestler, big, solid power wrestler kind of guy, is able to just corner him down, take him down at will, and kind of beat him up as the fight progressed. So to me, that was the big eye-opener of like, man, you just gave up an undefeated record by testing yourself, super badass, moving up to 135, which kind of proved to be an ill-advised decision. Comes back to 125, and that fight with Victor Altamirano, again, very good fight. Split decision loss to Altamirano. Altamirano ends up going to the Contender Series and then eventually to the UFC. So solid fight, good fight. Wins over Trevor Wells. Trevor Wells is currently on The Ultimate Fighter, right? He's on Conor McGregor's team. Win over Geraldo Granule. All good, right? You're racking up wins. And then that fight with Gaston Manzer, his last time out. Did you guys happen to watch it? Is it like a flat robbery? Chris Ocon, to me, wins the fight. Okay, good fight. But again, you've got the better skill, the better technician is Chris Ocon from the outside. Gaston Manzer is just, coming forward, trying to be aggressive, but losing. Okay, you got one guy matadoring the bull. Fun fight for sure. Split decision win, Chris Ocon. At least on the video I seen, Chris Ocon, split decision win. Then the video cuts. Then they're both back in the center of the cage again, and they announce it as a split decision for Gaston Manzer. And the local crowd, South American, because it's Combate, they go wild. I'm thinking, holy crap, man, they just totally greased him out one. But good fight. And to the naked eye goes, this Gaston Manzer guy's 12-8. Dude, all of his 8 losses are to guys that ended up going to the UFC or going to the Contender Series. This guy was a big, rugged South American guy, big for the class, cast iron jaw, had pretty good cardio. But Ocon fought him really well. The only spots I thought he really had trouble in was that Manzer was able to hold him up against the cage and kind of outmuscle him and outpower him. So to me, as much skill as you have, those bigger, stronger, heavier set guys that can get a hold of you will give him trouble. At 125, he should be in the UFC right now. I see no reason for why Chris Ocon shouldn't be there. Had he got that split decision win, that moves him to a 3-fight winning streak with that win over Trevor Wells, who's currently on the Ultimate Fighter. There's no reason for this 27-year-old, good-looking, talented kid not to be there. But that split decision loss is a screw job setback. Now you got to go win 2-3 more in a row. Now you got to build your way back up, which is all fine and good. and he can do that at 125. At 135, even though I think he's the better fighter here, it opens himself up for a little more. Because from what I've seen from Austin Coleman, and there's limited footage available on him just because some of the organizations he's fought for, just they obviously don't make this stuff public. But Coleman's a junkyard dog, man. He's got a win over Andrew Sturtevant as an amateur. He comes forward. He likes to throw down. He's very opportunistic with his submission game, and he's fairly solid all over. I think Chris Ocon is the more talented, faster, rangier fighter, finds the target, feeds off the energy of the crowd, sold a whole lot of tickets. He's going to have that support. And of course, I do think the guy's a premier talent. But Austin Coleman, the simple fact of him being an actual bantamweight is going to make this a lot harder on Chris than need be. So I would have to go Chris Ocon, and I would take him by decision because it's no disrespect to Austin Coleman. I think he's a talented fighter. When he loses, it's generally by decision. He seems like he's tough. He's rugged. His cardio is pretty solid. Again, he's got good scrambles. Wrestling's not so bad. I think that there's avenues for him to win the fight, no doubt about it. The biggest one being be the bigger man, be the stronger man, get him up against the cage, slow him down, get him to the ground if you can, and kind of work him over. But against a hot Nashville crowd and a legitimate talent, and even though you are the bigger man, Ocon's fast at flyweight. Ocon's going to be very fast at bantamweight. Like, you're going to have to chase this guy down for the most part. So I don't know the size of the cage you guys are using for the underground, but this is a street fight, the old Ken Shamrock days, the old Def Jam Vendetta days. I think Chris Ocon's got space to work, space to operate, gets the win.
Yeah, again, Cody breaks it down very well. Ocon has got the the better strength of schedule. He's got the probably the more well-rounded skill set. But as Cody said, Coleman he's a dog. He's a guy that you're going to have to really keep a good pace against him and be able to withstand him just coming forward and being in your face the entire 3 rounds to beat him, let alone get him out of there. So I do like that over. I think either way this goes, it will likely probably go to a decision. I think both guys pretty durable, pretty hard to get out of there. So I do like that over. And Coleman is he's got a lot of confidence. I feel like he has not tasted defeat too many times in his career. And whenever I was pitching this fight out there at him, he was like, yeah, he's got me on experience, and he's a tough guy, he's legit, but I just think stylistically we match up. I see some ways that I can win. So Coleman does come in confident. Ocon will have that nice home crowd. He's got a very rowdy set of fans that will be there front and center. I can attest to, and he's going to bring it. I think this is the first time he's gotten a chance to fight near home in several years. So I'm sure that he's very excited to be able to do that, and in an attempt to try to get his way back onto the radar of the bigger shows, and a win here, I would imagine, will certainly get him back on that path. And that's all of them for the pros, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, that's it, man. That's going to do it. So once again, Cody Saftik, man, couldn't appreciate you more.
Yeah.
And I would tell you, it's been a while, but our pro fighters, you're one of the first things they ask when they get on a card is Cody going to preview my fight? Is Cody going to preview my fight? And so we've hated having to say no all the time, for a while now. So the guys love it, and I've yet to have anyone, no matter which lean that you go, say that you were off base in your breakdown of a fight. So, as always, man, thank you so much. Tim, any last words?
Yeah, appreciate it, Cody. We will look forward to seeing you at weigh-ins, hopefully Thursday, if you make it into town in time. I'm not sure when you're due to arrive, but our weigh-ins are, I think, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Central Time on Thursday. So if you can make it by there, look forward to seeing you and catching up in Nashville, my man.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine any weigh-in is as good without Trevor Peak on it, because he would just, oh man, he would give you vibes. But
Yeah.
100%, I'm coming in early on Thursday. Want to check out the weigh-ins. That's where you're going to get a good idea of who's in shape, who made weight well, who's hungry, and of course, talk to the guys, see where they're at, get some broadcast notes, and then very excited to call the show on the Friday night.
All right. Well, we appreciate it, Cody. We will let you duck out of here. We're going to talk about some amateurs to round out this preview and this episode. We'll see you in just a couple days, my man.
Yeah, looking forward, man. Will do. I'll bring something nice to wear.
Nice.
See you, Cody.
All right, Jeff. Also on this underground card, we had originally, I guess, just to kind of give some backstory here, we had originally talked about doing this as an all pro card, and we we hit a little bit of a rut, I guess you would say, where we weren't able to get the fights to come together that we were hoping to get, and then we were kind of like, well, shit, do we need to add a few amateur fights just to kind of flesh this thing out in case these pro fights don't come together like we think they're going to? And then like the pro fights started to come in, they started coming together as they usually do, and we'd already kind of started making some amateur fights. So it's like, screw it, let's keep on track here. Let's do 10 fights. A little bit more, a bigger of a card than what we had initially planned to do on this, just kind of an abbreviated Friday night card. But we were able to add 5 amateur fights that I think all of them look like they should be pretty competitive, pretty fun to kind of set the mood. And as we were talking about a little bit last week, kind of give the people that are maybe they are over at the UFC weigh-ins, face-offs, or what have you, that evening, the ceremonial weigh-ins, and they're if traffic or whatever, give them some time to get on over to the venue if they're trying to catch both, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, the idea at first was like, hey, let's put on 6 kick-ass pro fights and give them a card. Even worth the price of admission with only 6 pro fights. It was a little tough going there at first. Not that we couldn't find. 12 fighters that were willing to fight on the card. It was putting them together, putting the puzzle pieces together. Yeah, we had a long laundry list of people that wanted to be on the card, but accepting a fight with someone else, and it was kind of a weird situation for us where we thought, pretty good pay, good opportunity, UFC weekend, the opportunity to maybe, uh, special appearances and meet some people. We know we're going to have some UFC employees in the crowd. They've already said they're coming. So we thought that was going to entice people to jump in and take some tougher fights that would garner some attention, but quite the opposite. That almost scared people too much into taking the tough fight because they didn't want to possibly come out on the wrong end in front of those people and I guess lose any stock. So what we thought was going to be beating people off, in a sense, we did, but we just couldn't get the matchups together. So it took a little while to get this thing going, and so yeah, we switched gears. Let's make sure that the fans are getting their money's worth. Let's get some more fights on this card and flesh it out with some amateurs. And like you said, then all of a sudden some fights started coming together. But I'm happy with it. I'm happy. 10 fights is still a good Friday night. You're not sitting there for 16, 17, 18 fights. Um, 10 fights is that's any UFC main card and ESPN show right there. So the fans are still getting their money's worth, and they're still getting some quality matchups, and definitely some high quality professional fights. So pretty excited about the card. And like you said, I mean, we're not gonna start until 7. Why start too early? Start at 7. We'll get out of there by 10 o'clock. It's still early for people to go back downtown and hang out. So it's gonna be a good fun night. But I'm just gonna go through some of these
Yeah.
amateur matchups here as a whole, and then we'll kind of talk about some of the things that stand out for us. We will have one juniors fight on the card, and that's juniors Ty, a young man that we've seen quite often, Brian Ortiz from Mushindo Martial Arts. He's going to be taking on Kurt Crane from Powell's Martial Arts in his debut. So 2 juniors going at it. They always deliver for the crowd, and especially knowing where they're at and who all's around them and
Mm-hmm.
what else is on this card. You can only imagine they're going to want to try to impress everyone, and they're going to give it hell. We've got a 135-pound amateur fight between Peyton Hayes from Nashville MMA. So um, the home team guy Peyton Hayes against Christian Watson from Striker Fight Center, Kennesaw, Georgia. 2 kids that yes have upside down records, but it's also 2 kids though that have fought so tough and haven't turned anything down. And I think that that's why you see the record the way it is. So I think both are in such an advantageous spot right now because they're finally going to be competing against somebody else that's at the same point in their career, has gone through the same things. This is a very evenly matched fight.
If
Uh,
I'm not mistaken, they're both coming off decision or split decision losses too.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
would think there's a little bit of let's get that taste out of my mouth. I was real close last time. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I think they're both excited that they're walking into a fight that they both feel that they're not uphill before they ever even walk in the cage, based on the opponents going up in weight class. Both of these guys, especially Peyton Hayes, is fought bigger people just to be fighting, and he's got a coach now who's trying to teach him that we don't have to do that all the time, and so excited about that matchup because again, one of these guys is going to get something that has unfortunately eluded them, in most trips to the cage, and that's a W, and it's got to make both of those guys excited. Then we're going to have Ironclad HQ is sending up Jacob Perez to take on Justin McCullum. McCullum from Machindo Martial Arts coming up with teammate Brian Ortiz. This is in the featherweight division. Perez is 2-2. Justin McCullum 4-4. So again, two guys that are in an opportunity right now, both sitting exactly the same at 500. So one of these kids, young men, not kids, but one of them is walking away with a winning record, back on the right side of the dub, and so again, you've got to imagine that is only going to magnify the effort given by both of these gentlemen. Next one I'm excited about because we haven't seen him in a while since his first amateur loss. Relinquishing his Aries featherweight title. Joseph Hishma from Shield Systems out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and also representing Jimmo. But Joseph Hishma, another one that the last taste he got in his mouth was the wrong end of the win loss column, and so I'm definitely pumped to see him climbing back in there, brushing his shoulder off, and really what you and I, Tim, talked about was it's his first away game.
Yeah.
He has always fought in the comforts and friendly confines of Knoxville, Tennessee. And I love the fact that in his comeback fight, he said, I want to get away. I want to go somewhere and fight. I want to get away from that hometown pressure, the hometown, and taking it on the road. So I love that aspect of him asking to be on this card. But also from Ironclad HQ at 3-2, he's going to be taking on Dylan Booker. Again, this is in the featherweight division. And then our last amateur fight, it'll be the one, I'm pretty sure, as we set this card up, what will go into the intermission and into the pro fights will be Rashad Lockhart from Nashville MMA, 1-1 record, big 170. This one's at welterweight, but he is a big welterweight. But Rashad Lockhart taking on Elliot Kim, also another local representing Phoenix MMA and Chambari Muay Thai, right here in the Mid-South area as well. So no hotels needed in this one, folks. This is local against local here. And definitely interested. We know that Corey Robeson, we know what he turns out. Corey is a decorated jiu-jitsu practitioner, but Elliot Kim's time at Chambari Muay Thai tells a lot too, because he's getting multiple gym training from multiple discipline-specific coaches, and so I'm going to imagine he's going to be pretty well-rounded in his debut. And Rashad Lockhart, again, got that size on him. Got an extensive striking, kickboxing Muay Thai record, but come to find out, he never really enjoyed doing it. He just did it because at the time, his coaches he had at the time really pushed him for it. He's like, I don't. That's not what I want to do. I want to be an MMA fighter. So that being said, though, you don't have that many trips into the cage because I think his record, Tim, was like what, 5-1, 6-1.
Yeah, it was pretty gnarly, pretty good.
Yeah, stand-up striking bouts. So whether he liked them or not, he seemed to be pretty good at them. It seems like. So this one is going to be interesting. He's been begging to get on the card for a couple of months now. So I know we were excited to be able to give him what he wanted. He thought he was going to have to maybe pray that he got on the Knoxville card on August 11th. So when this opportunity opened up, was real happy for him.
Yeah, this look at this amateur card. It's a small amateur card, but at the same time, all these fights have got a little intrigue for me. Obviously, Brian Ortiz is a guy that always brings a good fight in the juniors division. Being only 15 years old still, he's feels like he's pretty salty to be 15. Be interested to see what Kirk brings to the table. It's only be the second fighter or third fighter, I guess, we've seen out of Harry Powell's martial arts group down there. But last time we saw them, his teammate Sherman Washington came in and beat a much bigger guy. Harry trains him good down there. I think that the Watson Hayes fight, even though it being at 135, these guys truly will be flyweights when they have proper notice to prepare, cut weight. So I'm always interested in boosting up that division. Seeing what could come next for our current champ Bryce Warner. And then, both those 145 bouts, Booker, Hishma, Perez, McCullum, we're always kind of looking for what might be a next good challenge for the champion, Briven Sullivan. Obviously, Briven just beating Joseph Hishma his last time out. But, a win for Dylan Booker here potentially would be a win that I would think would be a quality win and somebody to put him in that conversation. And then in both sides of the other fight, of course, one of them being his teammate, Jacob Perez. Not as familiar with Perez. Justin McCullum, I know if he's not current, he's at the very least former, if not the current NFC Muay Thai champion. And so he is 4-4 in MMA, but he has probably at least another, I would guess, 8 to 10 Muay Thai fights. Very, very, very fun, entertaining, solid striker. This is MMA though, so that levels the playing field out with the grappling and whatnot. This is kind of my sleeper fight on the amateur side that I think probably hasn't gotten the attention that it will merit when it's all said and done. And then, of course, mentioned our final amateur fight. Excited for this one as well. Rashad Lockhart. If I'm not mistaken, we haven't seen Rashad since the AMP show. Could be wrong, but it seems like it's been a year now. So that's interesting to see what a year has done. Have we seen a lot of improvements in his game in that last year? Is there any cage rust, or has it all just been improvement? Rashad's a guy that, if we've talked about in the past, very big 170, just one of the largest guys that you're going to come across in the welterweight division. He looks like every bit of a middleweight or a light heavyweight. So, and it doesn't seem like the weight cut affects him too badly either. So, one could argue that he may have a tougher weight cut, but it seems like he cuts it with ease. Elliot Kim's a guy that I'm very interested to see debut. Fairly positive he's a purple belt under Corey Robeson there in Phoenix MMA. Don't know much about his striking. Obviously, if he's training there at Chonburi, he's well trained in his striking. I can say this is a guy that I have offered in the past to, some established teams that would have a debut at 170, and he's been turned down by a few of them. So I believe that even though he's giving up a couple of bouts in experience, that Elliot Kim will be a game opponent for Rashad Lockhart, just based on those kind of factors that I just talked about. So that's definitely one that we'll have our eyes on as well. A nice little bonus section here that we weren't even really talking about doing until about 2 weeks ago. So I'm happy that we've been able to come up with this little appetizer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just gonna fit the evening well. Like you were saying, it's fight weekend in Nashville. It's Nashville's version of International Fight Week.
Yeah.
But with the UFC in town on Saturday night, it's going to bring a lot of people into town. But this show was kind of course, this is still a business, and we love putting on shows and putting our shows on Spectation. But this was kind of a gift for us and everyone else to let's do something on UFC weekend. Let's get involved. And so this was a nice way of saying, hey, everybody that's in town, maybe you don't have anything to do Friday night. You're not really ready to throw down hard until after the fight Saturday night. But come on out and enjoy an evening of regional mixed martial arts MMA action with us, and come see some of the guys that we have that we think that you're going to be interested in, that we think could be that next person that you guys are looking at or following or wanting to start keeping an eye on because you saw them regionally at our show. So that was the purpose of putting this on. And we kicked the time back to 7, like you were saying, Tim. Head on over, watch the UFC ceremonial weigh-ins, and it gives you plenty of time to come on over. And it's Nashville traffic. We understand that. But if you are going to miss a few fights, if you're coming to watch and scout one of these pros, we've got some amateur fights. I don't suggest you miss any of them because I think they're going to be really good. But you don't have any fear of missing an Andrew Sturdivant fight if you were wanting to see how that turns out, if you're trying to fit everything in, or a Torres Finney or a Dedrick Sanders fight. So we've given you plenty of time to get back over. And we're not going to keep you all night either. So 10 o'clock is early in Smashville. Kid Rocks doesn't, and Florida Georgia Line, they don't even get popping until midnight, guys. So you've got plenty of time to watch some fights and then go out and enjoy the rest of your evening, or head over to the UFC Fighter Hotel and try to get some autographs. But I promise you, you're probably going to be able to get some in the house with us Friday night. I know I've seen some names on some corner lists that will interest some people. And like I said, we know we've got some employees coming in that are going to have a good time. So, Tim, that's about it. It's Tuesday for us, maybe Wednesday for you guys watching. I don't know when we're going to get this thing up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's Tuesday or Wednesday. It's just in a couple of days, guys. Fighters are going to start rolling in, planes are going to start landing, and before you know it, we're going to be jumping on a scale, putting up a cage, and doing the damn thing already again 6 days later after the last time we did it. So I'm excited. I'm exhausted, but I'm excited.
Yeah, likewise, man. You can get your tickets at fightertix.com while they last. It is a limited capacity venue, so get those. And then, of course, the pay-per-view at Spectation Sports. Make sure you check that out if you can't be there live, as we'll be live on Spectation Sports. Stay tuned to our social media. Check out the Aries page on both Facebook and Instagram, as well as our YouTube channel here, and we'll keep you up to date on everything that's happening. We see when the lines come out, what sports books you can bet everything on, as well as you catch the face-offs on Thursday. We'll stream those for you guys to size up the fighters and see what they're looking like before they go to battle. Once again, thank you for joining us for this edition of the 0 Hour. We will be back with yet another recap episode next week. We'll recap the Underground and get ready to preview number 3 of 3. It'll be Aries 20 from the world famous Cotton Eye Joe next Friday night. We'll get into all that next week. For Jeff Hobbs, I'm Tim Lloyd. Appreciate y'all hanging out. See you next time.
Peace.